Hi everybody, you're in the kitchen with Vita and the family eats. And today's video is going to be my homemade chili. And I'm ready to start football season, so that automatically means homemade chili. So we're going to do a dump and toss into this pan, and I love to use this griddle when I do the videos so I don't have to be back and forth at the stove and have my back to you. So this is a lot of ingredients, but it's my recipe, and it is very basic and very easy, even though you're doing, a lot of different steps. But the key is, at least with me, to have everything ready before you get started. Whether I'm doing a video or not, I like to have everything in place, so when I get started, I don't have to keep stopping and going to find things. So we're going to get started here today, and once I get everything in place, it's going to simmer for quite some time. I like my chili to simmer a minimum of 2 to 3 hours. So once everything is in place in steps, the cover goes on, and that's it. It is on its own. I stir just to keep the bottom from sticking. Probably every 15 to 20 minutes I'll check it. Make sure you don't go to, once you get to a boil, don't leave it at a boil. You want it to go low and slow and cook gradually. Okay, so we're going to get started here, and I've got quite a few ingredients, as I said, and I went ahead and got everything open so I wouldn't be, making a lot of noise and wasting a lot of time here. We've got diced petite tomatoes in a can with the juice, and we've got black beans, we've got mild chili kidney beans, and we've got great northern beans as well. And we've got our minced garlic, my chili powder, my red pepper flakes, my onion powder, my garlic powder, all mixed together. Rather than have all of those small little bottles around, it's easier just to do it this way. And I even threw a dash of oregano in there. And as always, you'll get the recipe list and grocery list and full recipe when you go to the Family Eats that will scroll across the screen later in the video. Always remember to subscribe, and you'll get my videos automatically as they come on. And you won't have to depend on seeing it on Facebook or hearing about it from somebody else. You'll automatically get them. So you do a subscribe, share, and like, and help me out. I would really appreciate that. I also have a Sazon seasoning packet, and I'll cover this brand up because that's not a necessity for me to give a plug, but you can get these in your foreign aisle of near the chili and near all your spices and seasonings. I get a very large envelope of it, and I try to use one in each one. It's got a lot of different herbs and spices in it all in one, and it covers a lot of bases, so you're not doing a ton of spices and seasonings. So my very first thing we're going to do is I use and collect bacon fat drippings keep it in my fridge so it stays nice and fresh. And I'll take probably a good tablespoon, throw that in my pan. I started warming this a little earlier. I want to get all my onions diced up with you and show you how I try to keep things uniformly sized. So that'll start melting really slowly, and then I'll turn it on. So first off, I have 4 small sweet onions, and I cut them in half and in quarters, and then I dice. And the whole idea for me is trying to keep everything the same size, which means bean size and whatever vegetables I'm putting in, which is mainly just an onion. But I try to keep them the same size as the beans, so everything cooks evenly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead here and get my pan on medium for now. And if it gets a little noisy, I'm going to have to speak up for you. But it's a lot easier than working at the stove with my back to you. So that's heating up, and I'm going to keep cutting the onions. And it's not a fine dice because you don't want them to get pulverized and not see them at all in there or feel them or taste them. So as I said, it's half, quarters, once again, and then across, and you're done. It's a rough chop. As soon as you start to hear that sizzle, you know you're on your way to a nice big healthy pot of chili. And whether you choose to share it with anybody or not, that's entirely up to you. I generally try to take a couple cups in a couple of my, what I call my Italian Tupperware containers that I tend to keep and collect. Everybody laughs at me, but they don't laugh when they get a nice sample of what I've made. I'll throw them in the freezer, and if my brother-in-law wants one and is craving chili, or you know, my good friend Mikey or my good friend Matt, that I like to surprise. My two boys, sometimes they'll take chili, other times, you know, they'll pass because they're on different diets every couple months. So as I said, this goes by kind of quickly. What I try to do is keep the onions sauteing and not sticking. And that bacon fat, that rendered bacon fat, it's not a ton. It's enough to add another level of flavor in your chili rather than to always use oil. This is the one instance you don't have to use oil, use the bacon fat. So those are going to get nice and browned. And I've got my plate on medium. Now this is my my copper setup. So everybody's is going to be very different. But if you're on a stove top, or in a slow cooker, you're going to still want to sweat the onions and make sure they're good and translucent before you start adding your beef. So you want the onions to sweat. So I use Himalayan sea salt to do that with. Throw on a little pepper. You'll add more later for sure. You want to hold off using your garlic right now, too soon. Once the hamburger's in there, maybe a better idea, because it's going to burn too fast. You don't want it to cook that quick. So now at this point, I've got some beautiful chilies that my friend Matt grew in his garden this summer, and I take a good handful of them. They go in a baggie, whole with seeds and all, right into the freezer. When I take it out while it's still frozen, I'll wash it, de-seed it as much as I want. The more seeds and veins that you use in these chilies or jalapenos, the hotter your chili is going to be. And I tend to lean a little bit more towards a sweet chili rather than I can't feel my lips chili. So when it's mostly just the pepper, you're going to get a little heat in the back of your throat, but not so your lips are numb or you can't taste what my chili even tastes like. So as I said, this is about one small, one or maybe medium. I got a jalapeno in here and a chili pepper. That goes right in with the onion. At this point, you're going to add a little bit more of the bacon fat. You can always add more, can't take it out. So I would say, you know, another teaspoon is in there. And these are all getting softened. It's just what you want to do before you add the meat. Let all those flavor levels start to join hands with each other. That should be enough because your hamburger is going to throw its own fat. So there's that. At this point, I would grab your ground beef. Now this is 2.5 pounds I'm doing today. And that will give me a good sized kettle because everything else has got to go in there as well. And I use 80-20. You want a little bit of that fat. Too lean will give you kind of a low-lying, I call them a low-lying chili. You want, this is not the instance for a very, very lean hamburger. You want that fat. So I would cut it up, break it up a little bit in chunks, and when you drop it in your pan, it'll already be separated. And you want a good sear on this because, as I've always said, ground meat has flavor. And as my good friend Amberell says, brown is good. So, break up all the hamburger, blend it with your onions and your chili pepper and your jalapeno. This will season the meat instead of dropping in heat or, flavor after the fact. That's the whole idea of the chili. It's low and slow. You don't want to rush this because it'll taste like you just dropped it out of a can. Some people are okay with that. I like a lot of level of flavor, so I like everything to flavor each other. So once this starts to brown just a little bit, as I said, I'm on medium, so I'm going to get a sear going. So I want to change to high for a few moments just to sear that meat a little. And the meat will buffer my my garlic so it doesn't burn. So I'm going to say a good healthy spoonsful of minced garlic. I would say about 2 tablespoonsful. So we'll add that in. Go with a little bit more black pepper. Different level of heat. Just because there's hot peppers in there doesn't mean you don't want to put a level that hits the front of your tongue, not just the back of your mouth with heat. So a little salt and pepper on the meat to bring out its flavor. And you might say, well, gee, she just added salt, all that salt to the onions. Well, everything needs its level of seasoning, or your chili's going to taste very bland. I drain ahead of time. That's why all the beans are open. I drain all the beans ahead of time and wash them, because when they're in a can and you don't have the time to do them from a dry bag and soak them overnight and then use fresh beans like that, they take a lot longer to cook. So it's okay to do a low and slow because they're going to cook through. These are already all cooked, but they're packed with so much sodium that you can't adjust, you can't control the level of salt in your chili. Seasoning's one thing. Over salting is something totally different that I just can't get on the other side of. It's not healthy. And if you're already eating something that, it's got a high fat content, you should at least control the sodium if you can. So, there is all the hamburger, the onions, the jalapeno, the chili, and the garlic, and salt and pepper. So next, what I'm going to do is gradually, as this is browning, start adding in my chili powder, my red pepper flakes, my oregano, my onion powder, and my coriander, and my oregano. So yeah, it looks like a lot, but you're going to have a lot of ingredients in here, so you definitely want to use, I would say, a combination of those things, at least a quarter cup. And you can adjust to your own. I mean, right now I can sit here and I can feel that chili powder and the hot peppers grabbing my sinuses. So that's how I know I went far enough, at least for us. Everybody's a little different. So yeah, we're browning up good. We're smelling like the beginnings of chili. At that point, I want to add my Saison Unique Seasoning Blend. And it has saffron in it. And if you know about saffron, it's a very golden yellow flavor that you see like in rices, a lot of rice dishes, jambalaya, that kind of thing, because there's a lot of turmeric and saffron in it. So I use 1 packet per chili pot. Oh, it's smelling nice in here. Wish you could smell. As far as like your grocery list, don't get overwhelmed by it. Just, you know the ingredients you taste and can pick out and find in your chili. And it varies with one person to the next. I like mine a little bit of a sweet hot. I don't prefer that real hot. So my ingredients might be a little different than yours. Not a whole lot, but somewhat. So next, I want to start with my beans, and they will get that level of flavor from all those seasonings. I have 1 can of black beans, and again, you can mix whatever variation you're interested in. I like a combination of black bean, kidney bean. These are mild kidney chili beans. Another level of flavor. And absolutely have to have a great northern bean, a white bean in there. Gives it a little bit more of a depth of a buttery flavor. And it does pay to take a strainer, take the time, and drain off all your beans except for the chili beans, because they have chili flavor in them, and you know, they're already seasoned for you. But the other ones, it pays to have a strainer handy and strain off all that salted water and just start fresh with just beans, because all these flavors are going to work with your beans and cook together. So again, I'm on high on this. So on your burner in the stove, probably be medium, medium-high. You want to still get some brown flavor on your meat, and then you'll turn it down to a simmer. So there's that. That's starting to bubble and work together. Let's see if you can see that. Beautiful, isn't it? Okay, so let that cook up a little more. Now some people also like to add green peppers and mushrooms. I have a lot of people that don't care for mushrooms. I have a lot of people that would get a tasting of this that don't care for green peppers in it. Sweet peppers. It lends it a different flavor. It makes it a bit more of a watery chili because it throws a lot of water. So I don't entertain that. You can, but this, as I said, is my recipe. I'm offering you a very rare look into every ingredient. I'm not that person that will keep an ingredient out so you can't get it to taste the same as myself. I will show you everything that I add into my chili. So at this point, I say it's cooking well, and it's okay to add your, this is a 28-ounce can of diced, steamed and peeled tomatoes. So you'll get a bite of tomato here and there, and still have that tomato base. Some people don't even add tomatoes. They just go with the chili flavoring and the rendered fat from the meats and such. I like that tomato backing. So rather than do sauce, it just makes everything too mushy. I like a chunky chili. When I put my cheddar cheese or you know, cilantro or sour cream on top, I want it to hold up on top of a nice bed of meat and vegetables and beans. When you think about the contents of chili, it really is something that is a very long list of healthy ingredients. It's just a matter of how you cook it and the steps that you take to take some of the bad away, like I said with the sodium. It's time for me to add a nod to my good friend Gary, a cup of his homemade Cabernet Sauvignon. I take 1 or 2 turns, and lo and behold, it only leaves a drop at the bottom, and that's for me. So that flavor and that level is in there. Red wine will add a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of depth. And I never met a red wine I didn't like in cooking. So there's that. Let that heat up a little bit as well. And I usually go with about a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Not too much. I mean, you don't want this like sweet barbecue. You want it to have just a nice level. that down in there, and that will melt slowly and work with those hot peppers and red chili flakes and give you a tolerable heat. It's looking beautiful. Absolutely resembling chili. Safety feature. That's the beeping you hear every time you lift the pan from the burner. It goes off. Nice, huh? Okay, so I also like to throw in a good turn of Worcestershire sauce, another level of beef flavor in there, and it's another big turn and stir to combine. Now my next two ingredients may shock you, but they are what I like to put in. I use dark chocolate chips or a nice dark chocolate square that I may have left from a bar. That no nuts or anything in it, just plain good old high cocoa content chocolate, a good quality chocolate. I will go with, because they're chips, I will go with 2 tablespoons in there. It's just, you're not going to taste chocolate chili. The reason for the chocolate is just that other level and that different spot on your tongue that you're going to say, what is that? What a nice rich level flavor in this. And you're not going to be able to taste that it's chocolate, but it does its job. And that will go in probably in about, I would say, maybe 20 minutes to a half hour. About a quarter way through its cooking time. I like to put that in there. You don't want to put it in too soon. It's going to be pulverized and it won't do what the cocoa is supposed to do. And also at the same time, my 1 to 2 tablespoons of dark chocolate chips is going in, and then I take a tablespoon to 2 of a good rich standard molasses. That's another level. You think, oh my God, this sounds so sweet. It's really not. Molasses is not necessarily sweet when it's cooking, or sweet when it's added to something. It's almost like a ginger heat instead. Molasses is the I call it the final frontier of brown sugar, or the whiskey of a good drink. So these will be the last 2 ingredients in about a half hour. So I'm going to let this go low and slow, and I will check it as I recommend you do. I would do every 15 to 20 minutes. Come in and give your pan a complete stir and a back and forth just to keep mixing everything together. And by the time I come back to add these 2 ingredients, a good half hour would have already passed. And you'll only have about an hour and a half more to go of just simmer time. And then we'll show you end result as well. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to go in there and subscribe. I'll see you back in a little while. Hi everybody. I'm back. And I wanted to add these last 2 ingredients. It's been a little over a half hour, I'd say maybe 45 minutes that it's been simmering. It's come to a low boil. So at this point, this is the time you want to turn it down so it doesn't cook too fast. You don't want your chili boiling. So here is where I say you go to low, at least for me, on this. On your stove, you may want to go low to medium. But if you see it boiling, turn it down, okay? So here we go. This is my tablespoon of brain fog, molasses, thank you, and that's going in. That other level of flavor, and yes, I did taste it prior to coming back on camera with you, and it was okay to add that level of sweetness. I've got a good level of heat. I can start to feel it. And I do about 1 or 2 turns of my dark chocolate chips. That's it. That's all it takes. I know, sounds crazy. Believe me, you'll like it. It puts a nice silky taste on your chili. And when you're dunking that large hunk of crusty bread heel, you'll be grateful that I went for that last level of soaky. And it kind of buffers that heat, believe me. And I know a lot of you really like a lot of heat. A lot of my friends do. But if you add that extra level of heat, you'll appreciate these two ingredients. Okay, so it's beautiful and it's looking nice and rich. I hope you can see the depth of color, and you can almost taste it. It smells so good. So here we go for the next hour and a half on low. When I come back, I'll be putting a dipper of this loveliness into a bowl with a spoon and ready for some shredded cheddar cheese on top, a little dollop of sour cream, and some last little bits of flat leaf parsley to help with the digestion of all these crazy levels. Thank you for joining me. I hope you will try my chili and enjoy football with this beautiful dish. Again, make sure you check the email address that will scroll across the screen for the Family Eats. Do a subscribe, do a thumbs up, like, and I can't wait to hear your comments on my chili. I'll see you later at dinner time. Bye. Hi, I'm back with my completed kettle of chili, and I want you to see it, and I'll show you how I dress it. The house smells wonderful. It turned out beautiful. Take a look. I'm going to scoop a nice bowl full. It came so nice and dark and rich, and the flavor, because I know I've tasted it, has really worked together to make a gorgeous bowl of chili. Now here I have a couple, the usual condiments. Put a little cheddar on top to melt to your liking. A little bit of parsley. Try to incorporate parsley into any of these types of dishes. Most of my meals that I make, I do. I've got a constant supply of flat leaf Italian parsley. It's not just for color and for presentation. It's for fresh flavor and to help with digestion. If you like sour cream on your chili, drop a little dollop, and you can let it melt slowly into your chili. I'm going to give it a taste. Oh, this is so good. And you know, at my house, you can't have chili. A nice big bag of corn chips. They're great to have on the side. Oh, it's got a nice little kick right after that first spoonful. Just enough. So, get all your supplies purchased. Take your grocery list, take your recipe. Get everything together and enjoy some good hot chili for fall and winter. Don't forget sour cream, parsley, cheddar cheese, scoops, whatever floats your boat, whatever makes your chili what you want it to be. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy it. Bon appetit. See you next time.